everybody, we're live. And I'm joined tonight by Scoundrel, who's returning, by popular request, I must say, and Keagle, the cool eagle, who's joining us. So, hello to both of you, and thank you very much for joining me tonight.
Well, thank you for putting up with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, let's start with some introductions. Scoundrel, can you let the people know where they can find you on the internet?
I'm the Scoundrel M. You can find me on Twitch and a little bit on YouTube. I'm not a huge presence on YouTube. But you can find me as the _Scoundrel_M. Obviously, underscore letters, not the words. That would be stupid. Why would I do that? Although now I think about it, I might actually change my name. I've been playing Dwarf Fortress for absolutely ages now. It's got to be. It's easily since the switch to multiple Z levels, and I've been playing the new edition since it came out now, but quite solidly, I must say. As soon as it came out, it rekindled the love for Dwarf Fortress. It came about just the right time.
Yeah, indeed. How long have you been playing Dwarf Fortress, Scoundrel? I forget.
I think I probably first heard about it in 2005, and then somewhere just shortly after that, because I heard a podcast, someone talking about it, and saying how they started a fortress and failed to build an axe, and everyone had starved to death alone in the woods, and they'd had no hope for at least the next 6 fortresses he'd tried. And I was listening to his struggles and thinking, this game sounds really interesting. I've got to give it a go. And then it just slipped my mind for a while, and eventually one day I sort of found the Bay 12 forum and downloaded a copy of it, and that was it. I was off. I must have gone through about 4 or 5 computers with the Dwarf Fortress, from laptops to desktops all over the place.
And Keagle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Let people know where they can find you on the internet.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm the cool eagle. Also go by Keagle, as many people have already called me. But I am primarily on Twitch during the weekdays, Monday through Friday. I do YouTube, but it's usually just like a video a year, so not even really worth promoting.
What's your history with Dwarf Fortress? How long have you been playing?
I've been playing since about 2006. Way back. I used to read the Penny Arcade forums quite a bit, and there was a Dwarf Fortress thread in there, like right when it came out, and it just kind of took off. It was like, I feel like it may have been one of the cornerstone communities that really latched onto a game and helped kind of promote it and get a lot of people involved in it. So I've been playing since the 2D version, and it's just insane how much it's changed over decades.
And we've actually brought you in as the lesser experienced person, because we on the Saturdays we usually have an experienced player and a less experienced player. And that's because you've opted to come in as an inexperienced player. And that's because you haven't played for...
it's on and off. I play a lot on and off over the years. But you can even ask Kleinadev. Whenever I play Dwarf Fortress, I'm pretty sure he just has to lay down and, nurse a headache. It's pretty great.
So you told me that you were stuck in 2010.
Yes, yeah. I'm scared. I'm scared of the rivers. The fish are going to eat my dwarves. It's not good.
So the fortress we are looking at the moment is Scoundrel's Volcano Fortress, which
it is.
We saw some time ago. And things have moved on quite a lot.
I have to say, is a different fortress.
Oh,
this is not the same fortress you saw.
Oh, okay.
No, the last fortress got abandoned. I had a capricious fit of whimsy. I threw it in the bin, and I decided to start again because the rooms were not laid out well enough. And I've essentially what I've done here is recreated exactly what I threw away, but a little bit faster. So it feels. Also, I've put in some flaws. I've made some seriously revolutionary discoveries in Dwarf Fortress. In this fortress, it's bonkers. I've started using clay kilns, making bricks for doing all sorts of stuff. All these floors on this here, these are sort of dark olive floors. That's all stoneware bricks.
Oh wow!
Amazing materials. It's just you can churn them out like non-stop, just thousands of the things, and you can throw constructions up like it's nothing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what's the floors, because I'm very fascinated in the different colours that we can use. Of course, me being colourblind, that kind of... I'm fascinated by colour.
Well, this is a sort of... It's not everyone's favourite colour. I like green. Green is my favourite colour in general, but, you know, it looks a little dark. No, you know, you can imagine like a 70s bathroom in this shade. I'm pretty sure as a child I was washed in a bath that was the colour of this bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Accents like this.
Avocado, I think they called it back then.
That's the one. Avocado bathroom.
Would you like to give us a fortress tour?
Sure, why not? Let's start on the top. So outside, I just got embarked here on a nice flat area, and I thought, whatever, I'll just drive straight into the side of the volcano. Oh, it's a volcano, by the way, just in case anyone didn't notice that. I just thought I'd plough straight in, do a little Z-leg kind of thing here for the bridges. I had an idea that I was going to put traps in this bit here, but in the end I didn't bother because they confound the wagons and cause all sorts of problems. Well, I should pause this. I've got traders in that I haven't dealt with yet. So I built a little road here to make sure we never had any trees blocking the entryway and making sure all the traders could get in. Placed in some hives. There are probably at this point trillions of bees in these hives. But I have yet to make a single jug, and therefore we haven't had any honey or made any mead, and we've been going for 10 years now. So they're probably overripe, ready to go. We've also got a little enclosed sheep pen here. This has seen some pretty serious action, this pen. I've just gone through an extended cull of animals in the fortress because the populations of essentially everything were getting wildly out of control. I don't know how many we had, but I mean, there was miasma for months, and we're not going to run out of totems anytime soon. Below this, there's actually the clothing industry and the food area that might use it, but I'll show you that in a minute. We've got a little switchback corridor here. I've mixed it up a bit. Normally I rely very heavily on cage traps. I lean on them almost totally for my defences, which obviously has some drawbacks. But this time, I've tried something that I saw a long time ago on a Krug Smash fortress, where he'd set up pressure plates to activate upright spike traps, and they were absolutely mincing everything that was coming into his fortress. And it's been at the back of my mind for ages, and I've just never got round to it. And this fortress seems to be the one where I do everything for the first time. So I've got these spike traps, cage traps, alternating kind of thing. It's done quite well. Some stuff makes it past it, but I've actually got a military as well, Sal. I mean, wow. You're probably just about fixing to pass out at the moment. We've got a nice trade depot set up here. This is a single stockpile that pulls all the sort of crud out of the fortress that I don't want. You know, wooden armour, anything brought by elves or made by elves or anything, you know, touched by elves. It all goes in that stockpile. And I've set up these minecart systems. It's just a single stop and a minecart. The dwarves gather stuff up, stick it in the minecart, and every time it's got 5 items in and it's full, they just tip it over and put it into this little quantum stockpile. And it's tidying my fortress up no end. Things are getting pretty neat around here. Don't just ignore the corridor full of dogs. They had to go somewhere, and I may as well put them near the barracks because I'm assigning them mainly for military purposes. You do not want to attack this fortress. Well, I mean, unless you're big enough to fully tread on a dog. You know, in that case, it's probably not so much of a problem. I did have some kilns on this floor, and because there's a little patch of fire clay, I harvested absolutely tons of the stuff, but unfortunately, where I'd tapped onto the magma, it wasn't actually a safe design, so I had to floor over it all with glass. And, it stops the magma crabs getting in. Bless you. What else have we got on this floor? You'll notice there's quite a lot of bedrooms scattered around, because early on, I kind of had this dream that I was going to put everybody on the floor they worked on, and I was going to have everybody in a burrow, and there was going to be food, and no dwarf would have to walk more than a few squares to do their entire day's routine. But, Dwarf Fortress, so dwarves are all in random rooms in random places doing whatever they want, so, it's not exactly the most organised thing. But I had the dream to start with. We've got a stone processing floor here with a couple of, stone workers, and a craft dwarf and a mechanic. This was going to be for organising stone, but I'm going to get round to that later. I've started putting guild halls on the floors of the people who are doing the particular crafts they're for before they request them.
Uh-huh.
And especially for arms and armour smiths, this really pays off, because almost every single mood I have had has produced some sort of artifact, weapon or armour. It's been great, although unfortunately they've not been choosing the best materials. Every time I've decided, I'm not going to bother forcing a material on them this time, they just come up with like an aluminium sword or something like that, something pretty useless. We've got a little hatch here which leads down to a crusher, so we can get rid of any of the unwanted materials we've got. That's on the same floor as the food, which I now realise does seem like a bit of a hygiene issue. Maybe I should have thought about that and not put the trash compactor right next to where we eat, but hey ho. That's one for Cryptbeard's 33. Well, I suppose so. Yeah, that's not too bad. They don't have to go too far with a handful of muck out of the plug to get rid of it.
Yeah, it's just a garbage can in the kitchen. It's fine.
With a full-blown disposal unit as well. You're not going to get your hand caught in that. Where else have we got here? This is all stills.
In the car it's called shipment, but on the ship it's called cargo.
Okay, night, Amy. Get back to your bedroom. Sorry about that. We've been interrupted. They're supposed to be in bed, but it looks like they're rebelling. They're just like dwarves, actually, in many ways.
Really, it's true.
Luckily, I can't catch anything off of dwarves, so, if I just play with the dwarves, it's fine. Anyway, where was I? Booze, we've got lots of it. I've got 14,816 units of varied booze and 3,967 units of just generic food. I don't know what much of it is, but I've been making sure to keep it all in these clay pots. You see, the other thing about clay is that pots are just so much easier to churn out than barrels. You don't have elves hassling you about quotas. You can just keep making as many of them as you want, and they don't weigh that much, so people can haul them around easily. I highly recommend, if you can find an embark with fire clay, don't make a single barrel. Well, unless you're making an ashery or something, in which case,
yeah,
you have to. I've actually got an ashery with a golden barrel, so that's how much I've advanced over this fortress. That's solid gold. I figured if they're not going to have to haul it, I may as well. This was a pig pen, but I've fallen out of love with pigs. They're not necessary. You can't shear them. I'm pretty sure the cheese they make from their milk is not going to be particularly fantastic, so I've just started slaughtering them all. We've only, I think, got these 3 left, maybe this one here 4, and there might be a couple of piglets in the hospital because, there's always wild animals running around in the hospital. What we got here? This is my miasma producing industries, fish cleaning, butchers. I don't normally have like loads of butchers in series like this, but honestly, the animal problem was out of control, and I just needed bandwidth. I had to be able to process a lot of sheep at the same time. I'll start removing some of these now that I think about it. We've got a dyer shop here. I've done a whole clothing system here, which we can look at later on. This is probably not the most efficient setup for clothing design, but I have, as you can see in the corner here, just started to dabble back with DFHack. And so there are some handy little clothing bits and bobs you can do with that make things a little bit more straightforward. This staircase here goes up to that sheep pen you saw on the surface. I'm aware I'm taking a very long time to get through this tour.
No.
I'm terribly...
It's okay, take my time too. I have nothing to show.
Okay, I'll try and get as much detail in as I can. We've got lots of paper here, which is being made by these querns and screw presses. a little bit. I watched a video last week about making books and stuff that Blind did, but as of yet, I haven't quite nailed it. I'm not sure. I think I've got a piece missing from the puzzle, but I'll figure that out another time. I've built a well that leads down to an artificial river that taps off of the genuine river at the top of the map, so that's nice. Unfortunately, it's got a few naked mold dog skeletons in it, but, I think
Flavour.
by now... Yeah,
Yeah.
flavour, yeah, that's nice. Although I think most of the quotation marks flavour has worn off by now. It's just bones. Mind you, they do say the bones provide the most flavour when you're making a soup, so perhaps we've got the most wonderful brothy wells in all the land. This is a nest, I call it an egging chamber, but it's basically just loads of nest boxes and all the chickens. I think I'm making some sort of error here because my population of chickens exploded and now it seems to have fallen right back and we're not getting any more or any eggs, so I'm not sure what's happening. I've got to investigate that, but that's for another day. Here's my dining hall, which by happy accident, I don't know, by accident, let's say that, has a through view in the dance floor through to the tombs of some of the most recently dead dwarfs in the fortress, which is nice. I didn't realise you could put down glass floors and see through the stone floor beneath in the graphics set. I don't think this affects the dwarves in any way. This is purely for RP purposes. The same as my greenhouses on the surface. I didn't show you them, but we'll forget about that for now. This set of graves hasn't actually been filled yet, so I'm not sure if I'm going to make these special for heroes of the fortress and that kind of thing. But to be honest, when people are dying in this fortress, it's happening in such numbers that the idea of individually choosing them burial sites suddenly becomes quite tedious. And I tend to let them just get sorted and dealt with. As you can see, we've had a few die. These are all my memorial slabs. For a while, I was kind of on this, I'm not going to use coffins kind of kick, and that turned out to be highly impractical. So I've decided to do something a bit jazzy and only use glass sarcophagi. So we're going for a sort of Snow White kind of vibe down in the crypts. Everyone can go. They've stopped leaving body parts on the coffins. That's nice. I remember like previously, in the last version of Crickbeards, they were all coming up and having a little sob over the grandma's coffin and then just, lopping their hand off and leaving it there for some reason, which was a bit disturbing. But they seem to be quite respectful in this one. Mind you, we haven't had many ghosts. I've been on top of the dead, not, metaphorically speaking. So we've not really had many hauntings. We have got one child in the fortress who's currently wandering around absolutely driven to the edge of, driven beyond madness by a haunting early in his life. I'm not entirely sure of the details, but he will not shut up about it. So,
that poor mayor,
deal with it
every day.
Oh, the mayor, the high priests, every single time. If there's a figure of authority for him to cry on and then punch in the face, he's all over it. He's all over it. He's constantly getting fights. It's a good job I haven't activated my justice system, because I get a feeling he'll be spending a little bit of time in pokey. This floor is mainly temples, and these are the royal quality suites. So my personal bedroom. I am the Count of Crickbeards after all. And I don't even know who's the manager. The manager gets this one, but obviously it's not nearly as engraved and whatnot. He doesn't need it. He's fine. He's apparently happy with his little tiny peasant bedrooms. So, whatever. He can keep it. What have we got on the next floor?
Hang on, just 1 second. Can you go back up to that floor? What's
Certainly
that statue with a white thing on it?
This one?
No, not the fire snake. Over to the right?
That
one, yeah.
I think that's a purring maggot. There we go, stoneware statue. This is a finely crafted stoneware statue of a purring maggots. The item is a finely designed image of purring maggots in stoneware by Led Bakustbar. So there you go, very exciting. Only worth 126 though. Early doors trying to pump up the value of a temple by sticking low-grade statues in is not an ideal strategy. You're going to end up with a room that looks like a statue storage facility. But once you've got decent engravers, though, you can make these things worth an absolute fortune very quickly. Just send a couple in and they will absolutely tart it up. Anyway, let's carry on with the next floor, because otherwise this entire stream is going to be me going over my fortress. So we've got this is intended to be a justice chamber. It was a prisoner of war camp. I was keeping all my goblins and all that kind of stuff in here, but I have since built and not yet actually opened a combat arena. But we'll get to that later on. They've all been moved down there. This is the animal stockpile. Here's our hospital. And as you can see, it's fully stocked with ducks, dogs, pigs, geese, you know, all the and a cavey, all the important stuff, you know. I mean, who could possibly imagine modern medicine without dogs? I know I couldn't. I'm really getting quite frustrated with this. If I come back on, Sal, next time, could we have a whole episode dedicated to how the hell you get animals out of the hospital? Because I'm actually at the edge of installing like an atom smasher in here and just making it locking the doors so no one can come in until they're damaged. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Here's our refuse gathering pile, which is also sorting into individual piles, but it seems to have ground to a halt for some reason. I don't know why. I'll find out sooner or later, I'm sure. Here's a load of crafts, dwarf workshops. Here's my standing order stockpiles. 20 doors, 20 tables, 20 chairs, blah, blah, blah. You know, the kind of things. The next floor, this is my smelteries, ore storage, and access to the mines, including my newly installed minecart system. Oh, God. This is like... Do you know that bit in 2001 Space Odyssey where the chimps see the monolith and then it sort of pans out and shows you the space station? That's essentially what's happened here between the two forts that I presented on each different time I've come onto the Kit Fox stream. The first one was basically me holding a bone, yelling at you all and smacking the microphone with it. And this one I've come back and I'm in a spacesuit and I'm just about to be ejected into the void by AI. Anyway, sorry. Where was I? Sorry, there's my minecart system. Probably a little bit showing off now because, you know, this took me almost 15 years to figure out how this works, but I've finally done it. This is a miners guild. What have we got? Next floor down. Storage for bars, soap production pipeline, gemstone storage, and a jeweler. Here's our forges. I feel like maybe I should keep this a secret because the theme of the stream is clothing, but I was thinking of experimenting with the idea of making everybody in the fortress a full suit of copper plate armor and therefore kind of replacing clothing with copper armor for all, but we'll see where that goes. I'm not sure if that's going to actually pan out. We have a lot of copper, but I'm not sure we got that much copper. These are all guild halls for people who make arms armor and anything out of metal. Go down another floor. Bedrooms, really got to expand this floor. Maybe put in another bedroom floor. Glass
Your
kilns.
bedrooms are so big.
Yeah, I know. Everybody says that.
I feel generous with a 2x2.
2x2. You give everybody every piece of furniture. I don't know why, but I just feel like it's... The dwarves don't have a lot going for them. The least I can do is give them all a nice bedroom, you know?
They're just going to dirty it up with all their ragged clothing, though.
And it helps to keep your dwarves happy. I would recommend no smaller than a 3x3.
Yeah, but with this, you can make them absolutely ecstatic. Every time they go to their bedroom, they basically trip over and pass out with joy. But so this is the problem is I am noticing now why people sort of goggle and get a little bit surprised by the large bedrooms, because you do need a lot of space to fit them in. You can only get so many on the floor, and when I suppose you've got those 3x2s or whatever, they're pretty easy to cram in. Anyway, on the floor below, we've got the glassworks and the new kiln zone, which I've attached to the magma with a drawbridge to defend us from magma crabs, so there's no need to deconstruct all this. Then we come down here. This is where I store all the wood, because by the time I realised that the reason I didn't have any beds was because we didn't have any wood or a carpenter anymore, this is where I could fit it. I'm actually building a second entrance lined with claystone bricks that's going to come out here to my surface farm greenhouses. This is my artificial river here, which I've got a little portion floored over with glass so you can see through. Because I'm just flexing.
Fancy.
We've got sand collection here. I've got a big room that stores all the empty bags. Got a couple of bars over the sand here so it doesn't get grown over. And then I think the fighting pit is here. It's got a glass surface. Again, RP purposes, we can see down there, but the dwarves technically can't. Got a series of levers for the prisoner bridges, the gladiator pit doors, the gladiator staging doors, and I don't think this one's actually been connected to anything, so I might get rid of that. And each of these is connected to a cage which can be opened up to decant a goblin into the arena. Got a library here that I've just started, storing loads of paper. There's the bedrooms for the scholars and the scribes. This is another barracks for my gladiators. They're going to be using all steel plate and chain. I'm not sure they can wear all of it together, but I've got it all there for them if they want it. And they're using steel swords instead of steel hammers, or silver hammers rather. They've all got the word ensuite probably doesn't apply to a barracks bedroom, but they've got bedrooms that are attached to the barracks so they can sleep there, although that's going to be a bit of a pain to assign. And then finally, if we go down the depths, there's some mine stuff. I won't show you that. Oh, I do have a new jive when it comes to stockpiles that I'm doing. I've rather than using dumping to gather up stone, I've started putting stone stockpiles over the stone I want gathered up, setting a feed order into another stockpile, and then forbidding gather from anywhere in all the other stockpiles, so they only gather the stone I want them to gather. Sorry, I realise I'm getting a bit quantum physicsy now. Let's go down to the final level. Here we go. We're at the end of the tour, ladies and gentlemen. The gift shop will be here shortly. We've got some drawbridges here. This is a staging area where I can put a squad of gladiators. It might be a bit narrow. I'm not sure if I've given them enough space, but we'll see. The levers up top can close these off, so it's kind of an airlock. This is the combat arena here. I'm thinking I might put some spike traps in. Maybe a further pit to the bottom with some spikes in. I'm not sure. I'm still playing with it. And then down here we've got loads of goblins that we've captured on the surface when they've come to siege us. Funnily enough, none of the elves have survived. The goblins have all got caught in traps, but the elves, they came in huge numbers, hundreds of them, and they got absolutely slaughtered. Weird how that works. And anyway, we've got these bridges behind them here so they can't feed back into the cage area and start knocking cages over and freeing the other goblins, and therefore their annihilation is ensured. Tour is over. Sorry that took so long. Thank you.
That's very impressive. And yeah, quite different to your last fortress. Yeah, developed quite a lot.
I'm still got very boxy square rooms though. There's always room for improvement.
Oh, there's always room for improvement with Dwarf Fortress, though. So, yes, today's topic is all about clothing. Oh, Chatter. Yeah, Chatter, very appreciative of your fortress.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm glad you appreciate the half-hour tour I just gave you.
So, today's topic is clothing. From the basics, just keeping the minimum clothing for your dwarfs, through to generating a cultish style custom wear. And
it's a uniform, not a cult. Uniform.
I think
Important distinction.
the idea of using armor as clothing, that doesn't seem out of scope at all.
I never thought about that, honestly. Like, I've just always put armor on my military dwarves.
Well, I'm not
Never
sure
thought about
if they'll
protecting the
accept
civvies.
it. Well, because the clothing wears away, and even clothing made out of the finest candy thread will become tattered and thrown away pretty quickly. Whereas armor isn't subject to the same sort of decay, and it will stay intact permanently. So you only need to make one set for each dwarf, which is not the case with clothing. You need a constant supply of clothing, otherwise, well, there's going to be some nudity in your fortress.
Indeed.
And not all the dwarves like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So to keep your dwarfs from insanity, to stop them from becoming unhappy with their clothing, you need to plan to replace whatever it is they're wearing every 2 years. So the dwarfs will wear out their clothes in the space of 2 years. So I set my work orders up to make a replacement set of clothes for half of the fortress every year. And then I split that so that it's split across the seasons. Yeah, armour is heavy and will weigh down your weaker dwarfs, as Alasor points out. That's true. But
It will also
they'll
make them stronger,
learn.
though. It's sort of
Yeah.
like think of it as an adversity suit for training, just to keep them, lifting those weights.
Yeah, and the armor wearing skill is how they learn to move faster in their armor. So a bit of training in the barracks, as long as somebody's got some armor wearing skill, they'll start teaching each other.
That's good, because sometimes you want skills to spread through your fortress, and sometimes you don't. It's, when you've got the Armorsmiths Guild, great, spread away. When you've got any other guild, like woodworkers, please just
Yeah.
can you stop holding these Friday night classes? They're causing some strange cultural issues in the fortress. If you just excuse me, I've just had another invader come down. Bear with me, I'm just going to have to
Yeah, no problem.
send
Don't
someone
forget
back up the stairs.
Don't forget to pause your game.
Oh yeah, good. Wow, I feel like I'm living dangerously. I've got to save. This is 2023 now. We can save the game. We can load up. We can scum save. Let's just let it roll. Give the people something to watch. They can look at my corridor of dogs. I'll be back in just a moment.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so if you're looking to calculate your work orders, because it's tricky to set up a work order for new clothing. When you set it up so that it's with the condition, in fact, let me just move Scoundrel's Fortress. I'll just minimize Scoundrel for a minute. And let's have a look at, say, shoes, for example. If you put in a work order that says make leather shoes, if the amount of shoes available is less than 10, if we used a condition like that, then it counts all of the old clothes in your fortress. It doesn't stick with available to wear. So I found that the easiest way to solve that was to put in a restart check seasonally, using the little clock, how frequently the conditions are checked, and then this number here, how many we need to make, is based on every season I want to make 1/8 of my population. So bearing in mind that shoes and gloves are made in pairs, so I don't need to double the numbers for that. But your dwarves are going to want something, some form of upperwear, some form of lowerwear, and then as long as they've got either shoes or socks, then they won't be naked. That's like the most important thing to them, because they go insane pretty quickly if, or they'll end up very, very angry if they're wandering around naked, because they get very embarrassed about that. But they also get really unhappy about wearing tattered clothes. So something that I do whenever we get new migrants, I have a look at my new migrants. I don't think they're that new in this fortress, though. Let me just have a look.
Speaking of new migrants, hello.
Hello. I will have a look. Yes, so this is a recent arrival. I'll have a look at them and see what items they're wearing, just to make sure that everything that they are wearing is something that I'm producing. So occasionally it might be that a migrant will turn up that is, or maybe I accept somebody to come and live in my fortress, and maybe they're wearing mittens over their gloves, or maybe they're wearing a cloak over their upperwear. And as soon as you've got one person that is wearing an item of clothing that nobody else is wearing, then you need to provide the whole lot for everybody. Yeah, or a loincloth, indeed, as chat points out. Underwear. Underwear has been a bit of a thing.
It's always fun to find a dirty thong just laying around somewhere.
Well, I raised this a few times with Tal, and then a few other people pointed out that this was not just a funny thing. This actually was an issue, and now we do have the ability to make underwear now. So every dwarven culture, let's just pop upstairs a bit. Every dwarven culture has the ability to make some form, that's leather, let's see, to make some form of underwear. Okay, so this particular dwarven civilization can make loincloths. In one of my other fortresses, it is brays, which are like long-legged knickers.
Pantaloons.
Well, there you go. I actually didn't know that. I did not realize that we have that ability now.
Yeah, it's new. It came. It was introduced with the Steam update, and I'm very proud to claim some credit for that. Does getting new clothing also satisfy the acquire something need? I don't think so, but I'm not 100% about that. Acquire something. They're usually happy if they can get things like bracelets and amulets and earrings and crowns. So trinkets will satisfy the acquire something need. Being extravagant is satisfied by putting on fancy clothing. But Scoundrel, would you, because my clothing industry here is very, very basic. It just covers the basic needs. If we come back to your
I happen
fortress...
to have a fairly well constructed, if not supplied, clothing pipeline here. So I've gone quite heavily into yarn instead of the plant cloth. I'm not what you would call the greatest Dwarf Fortress farmer. So pigtail crops, all that kind of stuff, bit unreliable in my mind. So a lot of this stuff is going to sound a little bit silly in light of hearing how some of the clothing stuff actually works. So, but what I've got here is my notion was that I was going to make everybody wear the same thing, the cult outfit, as you say.
Team uniform.
Try and go for it. Yeah, but sort of very robes, hoods, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, not very. Yeah. Just for playing the robe hood sports and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
But well, I figured that if we could get everyone wearing the same stuff, it would be a good look in the fortress. You know, I've never tried it before. I watched Conan recently. I saw the Thulsadun cultists, and I was like, this is a look I could do in a fortress. Sandals, little robe, easy peasy. Only two things. Back to bed, please. Thank you. Sorry. Neither of them are listening to me anymore. They've got to that age. I do apologise. They seem to have been acting in very dwarven ways. What was I saying again? Conan? There's robes. Yeah, I was trying to get everyone in yarn, robes and trousers. I was going to make leather boots, all that kind of thing. So we've got sheep for the wool. I think we may have some goats and alpacas and llamas, that kind of. Well, not at the moment actually. We haven't, but we had yaks for sure. Probably a couple of alpacas, whatever. That we're moving strictly onto. Excuse me. Sheep's wool. They get brought down here by the stairway, sheared, then it's immediately spun into thread. We also milk and do some cheese making in this room as well. This leather making or leather clothing area has very recently been added, which is why it's so stupidly far away from where the leather is actually produced. But, you know, you've got to put your shoemaker where your shoemaker fits. You can't go back on your layout.
Indeed.
This is where the thread goes. So all the thread that's spun ends up in this stockpile. I wasn't using bins earlier, and I've kind of managed to be quite disciplined about it now. So a lot of the stuff that would normally disappear into bins is actually sitting in stockpiles and visible. They use this here to make cloth. I recently added a dyer's workshop, but I don't have the raw materials. For some reason, I don't seem to be able to maintain a dimple cup supply, so I don't even have blue dye, let alone, like, what is it? Is it sliverweed? The black dye? I don't think I've ever seen that in the game.
I don't think I've seen it ever, yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to have, like, black robes in a fortress. I mean, not great for summer, but that's a
Sure.
very good look.
And
It's certainly a lot better than white robes. Anyway.
Napsa, thank you so much for the raid. Yes, do carry on.
Dyer, yeah, and then all that, whatever happens with this, the dyed thread or the undyed thread, turned into cloth, moves into here into a cloth storage, and then 2 clothier's workshops, which have standing orders, which I recently replaced with some DFHack stuff, but we'll come to that in a minute. These are just stockpiles that only take from these workshops, and it basically, before I was keeping like 10 in stock and going, oh, that'll be enough, they'll take them when they need them. But what you were saying means that seems like it's absolutely nowhere near the amount of stuff they need. But we've got top clothes, leg clothes, foot clothes, and I haven't got any gloves in the fortress, but I'll probably remedy that fairly soon, considering, in fact, maybe as part of the stream we can do a glove/mittens order to plug that hole. But yes, so that's where that is at the moment, and I have recently, like last stream I did, which was Friday, mucked around with it using DFHack, so it no longer actually resembles what I just described, but that's what I know. So we'll have to look at it and unpick what I've done. Have I missed anything there in the clothing pipeline? Do
No,
I
I don't
include
think
my
so.
armor, or are we just going to stick with the textiles for now?
We'll move on to armor in a little while. Could you go through how you dye clothes? Because this isn't something I can talk with any authority on.
Yeah, I've
Well-
never dyed anything ever. Well, I barely make clothes, so I let my dwarves run around naked.
This is a very new thing to me as well. I think there's 4 or 5 plants that can be used as dyes, and I think there's green dye, blue dye, black dye, red dye, maybe. I think that's about it. Someone will know the list. Someone will definitely know the list. But you've got these plants that you can use, process into a bag, and then using that you can dye either thread or cloth. So let's go into here, add a new task in the dye shop. You can either dye the cloth or the thread. Apparently, it's much more efficient to dye the thread and then weave the cloth into coloured cloth. But I've yet to actually work through on this because I haven't got any actual dyes to work with. I do have traders up the top there, so it could be an off chance that they brought some dye and we could dye some cloth and make a piece of coloured clothing. But I can't guarantee that. There's no promises there. But once you've put up the order, essentially, you can't choose the colour. That's odd. I thought there was going to be that little magnifying glass there that lets you choose the colour, but apparently not. You just dye the cloth and it dyes the cloth. Fair enough. I suppose you'd have to use stockpile discipline to try and get them to use particular dyes then. That's interesting.
And Ledge Kindred in chat says Dimplecup's Silver Barb, Bladeweed and Hydroot are the 4 colours.
That's the ones. Yes, that would be Dimplecup's blue, Sliver Barb, sorry, I always want to call it silver. Sliver Barb, black. Bladeweed is green and Hydroot is red, although I'm a bit sketchy on the last 2. Tutorials, Clinadev, honestly, this is very out of the ordinary developments here. Clinadev was in chat saying that he was going to add me to his list of tutorial people, but trust me, there are better people to learn from than I. This was very, very haphazardly won, this level of complexity. I'm sure other people definitely, Sal, for example, far superior in the quality of tutorials she'll produce. Come to me for a tutorial about how to do something in Dwarf Fortress, and you'll get an hour-long ramble about something completely irrelevant. So, Your mileage may vary. Caveat emptor. Okay, so anyway, we were doing the dyeing the cloth, we were making the clothes, looking at this and realizing that we couldn't particularly select a color. There we go. I've got us back on track again. Sorry about that. So the dyeing at the moment, again, a bit of a black box to me because I've not got the materials, but I'm looking forward to giving it a crack when it comes along. And it looks like I'm going to have to add significant storage and production for clothes.
Yeah, I just pulled out my calculator, and your population of, let's say, 180, if you divide that by 8, that is 23 of each item, or pairs of items, that you need every season.
No wonder it changed so much. Let me just pick up here. Are we talking DFHack, or is this too much depth?
Oh, you can talk DFHack, yeah.
Okay.
As long as
I'm not going to talk about.
Yeah.
This is an add-on. This is extra stuff. Okay. Everything I'm talking about for this little bit. This is special sauce that you need to get DFHack for. I'm not going to tell you how to get it. You'll be able to find it. It's real easy when you actually put the effort in. I didn't for ages, and I finally did it a couple of days ago, and everything's changed. So you go to the DFHack control panel, and we've got 2 different scripts here that deal with managing clothing. I only know anything about one of them, and someone was in my chat. Does anybody remember who was in chat the other day? They actually have some background working on the interface for DFHack. The name will come back to me. But they were saying that Taylor, this lower one, is a bit advanced and maybe read up on it before you use it. So I'm not going to say anything about that. I've got no idea what that works like. But there is... got here. Where's it gone? Is it auto clothing? Here we go. So you can use this script. I've got it activated. And you can say how much of each piece of clothing of a particular material you want to keep per dwarf. And at the moment, I've set it to 2 robes and 2 pairs of trousers in stock per dwarf, which you're saying is pretty slim pickings for most of the dwarves. They're pretty much running around in rags. So for 180 dwarves, you said how many?
I said that they would get through 23 per season.
So 23%. So in this instance, say I want to up which I do, my yarn robe quota. So I can type in auto clothing at the top here. I'm not going to go through the big details here. There's lots of stuff to read about DFHack. If you go online, you'll find it. It's not terrible, but I'll just give you an example of what you can do with it. So I can type in auto clothing. We can see here that it wants the material first. So you type in yarn, because that's what I've got loads of. Item, robe, and then quantity, 20, how many again?
Well, is this per dwarf with DFHack?
Yes, this is per dwarf.
Well, per dwarf, you only need to keep, I'd say 1 per dwarf.
Oh, right. So I was already good.
For 2 years. Yeah.
So
without
without DFHack, you would need to keep a stock. You would need to produce at the rate at which they're wearing out, and with your size of population, that is 23 per season.
Right. Yes.
For the entire fortress.
Yes. Okay. Right. That makes a lot more sense. I must have been distracted by something. It could possibly have been one of the 2 children I have in this house. So we only want one of them at any one time in stock. So I can lower that order down to 1, and there we go. The orders are now put into the order thing to. Oh, hang on. Let me just get rid of that to maintain the yarn robes.
Nice.
I do believe. If we come down here.
Trousers, robes, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Although these may be the orders I put in. I'm not sure if DFHack does some sort of... I don't know if it actually does these orders now.
Yeah, I don't know whether it would appear on your work orders, because thinking about how DFHack used to do the workshop range thingies, the workflows on the workshops, that never used to appear in your manager's work orders.
Right, okay. Yeah, it probably uses that same method to do it then. which is
Yeah.
fine because I'll have enough clothing for my dwarves.
Yeah.
But I suppose I can show you what I would do previously to installing DFHack. So the 15 years before last week. That's not true. I was using DFHack in the pre-Steam days as well.
Me too.
Yeah, what I would normally do is it's pretty similar to the stockpile stuff I showed you last time. To be fair, I would set up a stockpile here that can hold the amount I expect to keep in stock, which is actually much more than this, obviously. But I can put some bins in there to up the capacity. And then once I've done that, I would go into the workshop or the management orders, put in a work order for the item that I want, and set the... If we go back to the screen, I'll show you the orders that's already in there. Where are we? Yarn. See that, or have I... Yarn trousers, here we go. I'll change the conditions for yarn trousers. So basically, my order at the moment is if the amount of trousers available is less than 1, which feels a little low, make 10 pairs of trousers. Is that what I've really got? I might have been quite tired when I put this order in.
Yeah, so the problem with using that as the method, if you don't have DFHack, is that also counts the amount of worn out trousers in your fortress. So it doesn't include the amount of wearable trousers, which is...
Worn out clothing.
Yeah, which is why I do the seasonal thing and put in... I do a seasonal check using the little clock thingy.
So you'd come around to one-time order, conditions checked seasonally. Here we go.
And then I put in, I get rid of that condition you've got there, and I just say make yarn trousers, but instead of 10, it would be 1/8 of the population of my fortress. So
I
see. For you that'd be, and I tend to round it up because I'd rather have too many than too few. So for you that'd be 23 because it comes out at 22.5.
There we go. So 23 yarn trousers seasonally will keep everybody fully covered up. Well, I mean, provided they haven't lost their marbles and started flinging their clothes everywhere.
Indeed.
I mean, that is also a possibility. Not every dwarf will wear the clothes you give them.
And it doesn't account for things like, for example, I trained up a whole bunch of dogs as war dogs and then asked my dwarfs to go and geld them. And a whole bunch of my dwarfs had very damaged trousers at the end of that because the war dogs didn't take very kindly to it.
Yeah, you should generally geld them before you teach them how to fight.
Yeah.
So we've got the yarn trousers and robes and stuff. So how do we... I'd like to know more about how dwarves wear clothes, because there is some strangeness about that. I know previously there's all those stories about dwarves wearing stacks of crowns, like 100 robes at once. I mean, how does a dwarf ask for clothes and get clothes if it's there? How does a dwarf think about clothes?
Okay, so there are multiple layers for dwarven clothes, starting with the underlayer. The underlayer is their underwear, socks, and gloves count as an underlayer as well. Then there is the main layer, for want of a better word, which is the trousers and either a dress, a shirt, or a tunic. It varies between the different civilizations. And trousers, sometimes the dwarves don't know how to wear trousers. They wear skirts instead. Skirts and trousers are interchangeable. And shirts, dresses, and tunics are interchangeable. But then you've got, so that's your main layer, is the trousers or skirts, the upper body wear, and also I think that's right. Then you've got overwear, which includes the shoes, hoods, cloaks, coats, vests. So when they talk about vests, they refer to vests in the same way as we in the UK might refer to them as waistcoats. It's,
right, okay, yeah.
Something that
This
they
is a-
wear over the top of their shirt.
It's a zucchini scenario.
Yeah, indeed. And they can wear multiple layers of things. So they will only wear one pair of socks, but if you set up a uniform that says wear 4 pair of socks, then they can, I believe. I've never tried it myself, but I believe they can wear multiple pairs of socks, and they can have overlap. So if there is something that covers both their upper body and part of their lower body, like maybe down to their knees, then they can have something like high boots, which will cover some of their lower body as well. So some of the clothing will overlap some of the body parts. For a detailed explanation of which thing goes where and how many of the things can overlap, it's all on the wiki. There is a very detailed explanation on the wiki about what bit goes where. I'll just pull that up, actually.
Yeah, I was just looking at that myself, and like the
Yeah.
headgear, for example, you can have a mask on, and then you can have a cap, and you can also have a helm, and you can also have a turban or a head veil. So you can wear 4 things on your head
Indeed.
per dwarf.
Good if they're dropping stuff on top of you.
Here we go.
You got them nice little cushion.
I'll just bring this over. Sorry for the bright lights. If you're looking on the wiki, look for armor. Under armor is where you can see where all of the bits are added, including things like shirts and thongs and brazen skirts. So
Actually,
all
that's
of your
something we
normal
should
clothing.
probably mention about clothing. One of the little foibles is that in stockpiles and various menus, the game can be a bit free and easy about what it considers armor and clothing.
Indeed.
Because all torso clothing is just considered in some menus as armor. Which
Yeah.
can be a little bit confusing. I've like in my armor stockpiles, I have to specifically go in and say I only want stuff made out of metal or
Yeah.
specifically steel, because otherwise they'll just go, oh yeah, trousers, they're armor. Just stick that in there, no problem.
Yeah. So it's mainly the body wear that's counted as armor. So yeah, they would count shirts and dresses as armor.
Which I find to be a contentious position, to be honest. It's when the elves all turn up wearing wooden armor, and you're like, really? You do know what dwarves are famous for, don't you? And you've turned up in wooden armor. Okay, all right, okay. I don't think you realise what you're doing, but we will open the gates. Oh, look, you're all dead. Oh, what a tragedy. This is the worst thing that could have possibly happened to you.
So regarding when a dwarf will request clothing, as soon as there is an item with an X on it, they will look to replace that item. And they'll start getting unhappy about it immediately. If they can't replace their clothing as their next task, they'll start getting unhappy about it straight away. And it depends on how long that's in their memory for, in their short-term memory, as to how much of a bother it's going to be for them. Like how likely it is that that's going to cause them some issues. TF2 dwarfs collected as many hats as possible. Indeed.
You gotta get the layers. You gotta get all the layers.
I mean, but the trinkets are slightly different. So things like how many crowns they can wear, how many amulets, how many earrings, how many rings, they're not counted as clothing. They are adornments, I think it's called. And yeah, there is a limit on how many they're supposed to be able to wear. Although you do hear rumours about dwarves wearing 24 crowns at once. I believe the limit is 8. And they can wear up to 5 rings on each finger, I believe it is.
Jeez.
And also bend their fingers?
Yeah, right?
I
have a question about that, though, because I don't think I've ever noticed my dwarves wearing any rings or necklaces, and I usually do a lot of like rock crafts in that for trade. So is there something I'm just not doing right there?
Yeah,
I guess?
possibly. I'll just swap over to my fortress and I'll show you how I'm handling that. So, let's go over here. Okay, so this stockpile here, it's got 1 crown and a load of totems in it at the moment. But this is a craft stockpile. So a finished goods stockpile, which is set to only accept amulets, bracelets, crowns, earrings, figurines, rings, scepters, and totems. So the trinkets that dwarves like to claim. And then it's set, let me fix that again. It's set so that it accepts 0 bins. Something to be aware of. If you click the custom button, if the game thinks you've amended what's allowed, it will default to adding bins back in again. So 0 bins in that stockpile. And then what I do, I keep that stockpile very close to my trade depot. Every time I get a trader, I get them to carry all of the trinkets to the trade depot. And because there's no bins in this stockpile, that means that like how many items are there? I don't know, maybe about 50 items. So that gives dwarfs like 50 occurrences of a dwarf going to a stockpile that's full of trinkets. And it's as they're putting things in a stockpile, that's when they are most likely to acquire something.
I see. So I use bins. I'm bad and I use bins all the time. So I think that's my guilty issue here.
So if you have a trinket stockpile and it's got a bin in it, then only 1 dwarf is going to move all that stuff. So there's only 1 dwarf that's in the vicinity of the stockpile. So it's less likely. They will go out of their way to go and claim something from the trinket stockpile, but it seems to be that actually there's 2 things I've noticed that seem to drive the behaviour. One is them going to the stockpile. Let's have a look at you. Yeah, so this guy has picked up a ring and a bracelet at some point. That's why there's just totems left in the stockpile. They've all been grabbing stuff.
So this runs, I think we mentioned this earlier, this runs in parallel to the clothing desire system.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They're completely separate realms. Right.
They are. So this is to get them to acquire an item rather than putting clothes on. So getting them to wear clothes is easy. You just make clothes available. They don't care where those clothes are, they'll go and get them. Which has always been a bit of a problem with underwear because dwarves historically couldn't make their own underwear. And so every dwarf had a secret longing for a pair of knickers. And then if you had a goblin die outside, there was always...
It'd be a mad rush for it.
Yeah, there was always a joke about how a dwarf would make a beeline for an old sock. It wasn't. It was the underwear that they were after because no dwarf had underwear of their own. And they would rush out into the middle of battle if they saw a loincloth on a dead or dying goblin. It was, and then they'd wear it.
Just don't mind if I do. Just take that right off.
Absolutely. And then they weren't able to replace their underwear because they weren't able to manufacture it. And it didn't matter how many goblins you killed or how many thongs you bought from elven traders, you could never keep an entire fortress clothed in underwear because they would the underwear would be wearing out at a rate of 1/8 of your population every season. So if you can only buy underwear once a year, that means you need to buy half the population of your fortress. You need to buy that number of knickers every year from the elves, and the elves only ever bring like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 thongs. So and you'd be lucky if you got enough goblins die in your fortress without their underwear going tatty as a result, because the fighting can often damage their clothes.
Very true, very true. I've had an elf go through a hammer trap and get gelded, and it didn't mention anything about putting his pants down first. So I'm pretty sure his underwear was undesirable, to say the least, by the end of it. I feel like I've just listened to a pitch for a new Carry On film.
So what would happen is, and of course, if you've got one dwarf that's wearing a piece of underwear, and that underwear starts to get tattered, then it starts to get very worn. Eventually it starts rotting off their body, and they get really, really upset and embarrassed about the fact that they're wearing tatty underwear.
It's got a couple holes. It'll be good still.
If you manage to acquire a new pair of knickers for them, trying to get that one dwarf to wear that pair of knickers is really, really difficult, because every other dwarf wants a pair of knickers as well.
Stop fighting over them. This feels like this is a surprising, but also somehow unsurprising, deep cultural layer we've discovered about the dwarves.
So can't we just drown a bunch of goblins and then loot their underwear?
Well, yeah, that used to be the way to deal with it, but now
Cleans it as well.
but now, luckily, we are able to make our own underwear. So yes, it's either loincloths or brace that you can make in, and it depends on your dwarven culture. Some dwarves make loincloths, some dwarves make brace. I've never seen dwarves with the technology to make thongs. That seems to be specifically elves and humans.
To be clear, just to make sure we don't enter into another zucchini scenario, when we say thongs, are we talking about thongs as in thong, the thong, 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 or are we talking about Australian flip-flops?
It does not label them left and right, so I've always assumed.
Yes, so we are talking about the thing you wear on your bum, that in the UK we might refer to as a G-string.
Yes, that's true.
Yes, not the Australian thongs.
No, okay.
Undies, indeed.
Down undies.
And to point out, I was saying humans can sometimes sell and wear thongs. Human underwear is too large for dwarfs. So, yeah, no point in buying underwear from humans or any other clothes from humans because it's large size.
Are there any species that would share a clothes size? I mean, not without modding, you can't really trade with anyone other than humans and elves, can you? But would you theoretically be able to buy clothes off of any other species?
Well, of course, there's goblins. I know you don't buy them off goblins, but but you acquire them from goblins. There are.
So if they were in the mood for trading, you theoretically could wear goblin chic, so to speak.
Yeah. So there's probably some other animal people that wear clothes the same size as dwarfs, but I've no idea. I know rat people have got a really nice line of clothing, but I think they're probably small. Worth noting as well, have you ever made any differently sized clothing?
I haven't, but I've seen the option. I've often thought,
Yeah.
because a lot of my trade at the moment is just all the old tatty clothing that my dwarves has thrown away. That stockpile near my trade depot is constantly being filled up with naff old clothing, and I was wondering why are any of the other species buying this stuff? It kind of makes sense going back to the mountain home, and maybe if they're using it for rags, it kind of makes sense, but. I don't. If maybe I should be making stuff. Would they pay more for stuff in their own size? I wonder.
I don't know. That never occurred to me. I've never tried it.
Because
yes.
what are the humans doing with all this dwarf clothing that they're taking away? Have they got like some kind of dolls clothing industry?
There's a whole industry for that. Yeah, don't worry about it. They're gonna do what they want with it.
I did go into adventure mode after having... So this is pre-Steam. I went into adventure mode after having a long-lived fortress in a world, and I was exploring the local vicinity to where my fortress was. And there was a bunch of human hamlets just down the road from me, and oh my god, there were so many worn-out socks. It was unbelievable. It was like the whole countryside around my fortress was just littered with worn-out clothes. And so,
is it from traders who've bought them and then they walk off of the map and suddenly come to their senses and go, "What the hell have I done? I've traded everything I own for old clothes."
So it is worth noting that when you sell something to a trader, those items continue to exist in the world afterwards. I don't know if the same is true for food. Like if you sell prepared food, whether that food eventually rots and so there's just lots of barrels out there in the world, I've no idea. But
does that affect the frame rate, actually, thinking on it? If you're selling this stuff, oh my god, what have I been doing? Oh, madness.
So, how much it affects the frame rate, I don't know. I don't know compared to all the many other things. But yes, it does have an impact on your frame rate. So if frame rate's an issue for you, you might not want to sell all your old clothes. You would want to sell the worn out masterwork, because that's something you don't want to destroy, because even if it's worn out,
It'll
destroyed,
make the artist sad.
Yeah. A destroyed masterwork will upset the person who made it, and it'll be valuable. So if you've got a pair of really basic worn out yarn socks and they're worth like 3 dwarf books each, but stick them under a drawbridge instead and crush them. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the way to go.
Scoundrel, what do you call the dwarf bucks? Do you call them dwarf bucks? I always call them dim-dums.
I reach for trade credits. Yeah, I don't know why. It sounds a bit sci-fi to me, unfortunately. I always feel that's the wrong term for it. I would like to know if there was a term for it, because often these games, they do have like their own special currencies. I always remember The Sims back in the day. They had simoleons and they had the little symbol for it. And that always made me think, yeah, you've put in the effort. You've come up with a name. I think Dwarf Fortress needs a canon name for because there's a symbol, isn't there? If we go to trade depot, you can see the little symbol on there, can't you?
Let me switch back to your fortress, because you've got traders in.
Well, yes. That was before I was so crazy about pausing. I was just waving it away, going, yeah, we'll just leave it. It'll be fine. And now the diplomat from the mountain home is pretty peeved.
Oh.
He's not happy. So yeah, unfortunately, you can't move stuff to the depot until they actually turn up, can you? So if I leave it running, maybe someone will turn up and we can return to this thought at a later point.
Indeed.
Oh, there it is.
But yes, it's like a little.
Stiger posted in
sun.
chat. Yeah, the little sun symbol.
It's the same symbol as we use for masterwork items.
Master bucks. That doesn't sound good.
Oh, Kleinodev says they're called jurists.
Sorry.
Yeah, Kleinodev says they're called jurists.
Ah, right, okay. Well, we've got a canon name for them now. I remember that one. Coins with a base of copper or silver, says Very Inky. How often do you ever bother to make coins, just to go off on another tangent? Because
I did it
I know
once.
they get asked for. You can use them for trade and stuff. They do have that value, but it feels a bit...
Yeah.
Unless someone's going, make me coins! You don't
Indeed.
think, oh, I'm going to make some coins.
Yeah. No. But apparently they... some of the coins can have interesting images on. I keep on meaning to do it and then never getting round to it.
Actually, that's true. That is something cool that you can have, like a lineage of currency in your fortress. Like one of them big books full of coins with all the same head on one side and then something else on the other.
Would you like to run us through some armour making?
Yeah, sure, I can cover armour making. Again, this is, again, caveat, I'm not the greatest armour person in the world, but I've picked up a few moves over the games, so I'll tell you what I know. If I come down to my my forges, here we go. Very key, if you want good quality arms and armour in your fortress, do not wait for your dwarves to ask for an armoursmith guild or a weaponsmith guild. Just build one. Just put it there, make it available to your citizens, not just guild members. Don't open it up to people from outside the fortress unless you actually want visitors, because they will draw them in. But if you have early doors, one of these guild halls, they will go and watch demonstrations for entertainment, and they will end up getting very good at armoursmithing and weaponsmithing without ever having touched a forge. And, you know, if you're lucky, if you take long enough to set your forges up, you might have someone who's nearly legendary by the time you even start making arms and armour.
Indeed.
Also, it has the side effect of making, if you do it early enough, armoursmithing and weaponsmithing will be among the most widespread skills in your fortress. And that means there's a very good chance that when a dwarf gets mooded, one of those skills will be their highest moodable skill, and you'll get arms and weapons. 'Cause if we look, I've got I think that's a copper breastplate there. We've got a copper helm, and I've got a ridiculous number of useless swords. I'm intending to use them as vestments of office for various roles, but I haven't got around to actually doing it yet. The dream is I'm going to be using Stable Diffusion to illustrate the fortress, but you've got to dress everybody up first. They've got to be ready for the class photo before you push the button.
Bookprint says guild halls are the YouTube or Wikipedia of Dwarf Fortress. That's a good analogy.
They are. Yeah. They will spread any skill you want to spread through your fortress. Guild hall gets it every time. Be careful, because I've made the mistake of installing a woodworkers guild that they've requested first, and honestly, you end up with so many little wooden doodahs and whatnot artifacts that it's so tedious. Weapons, armor, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So anyway, with the weapons and armor, I think basically armor is it's basically the same as clothing in most respects, isn't it? Except that it has the defensive qualities. Does normal clothing have defensive qualities in the same way armor does? Obviously much less so, but
much less so. You can get something like a blow deflected by an item of clothing. They're certainly better protected with some item of clothing than they are with no item of clothing.
Sorry, Kleinodev made a point here as well, saying throw a toy stockpile and food and drink stockpiles in the guild hall, and you'll get the kids trained up too.
Indeed.
Yes, very good. And if a kid gets mooded, they'll become a legendary armorsmith or weaponsmith before they've even grown up. Mwah, chef's kisses. Mwah.
Indeed.
What a beautiful strategy.
So I've taken to setting up my first guild hall usually by about the first autumn, maybe around the time that my first trader has been and gone. Around about that time, I'll set up my first guild hall, which is usually a weaponsmith, and just set it so that any citizen can go to the guild hall. At that time, I don't have anywhere for the dwarfs to socialise, so they'll all go hang out in the weaponsmith. And I'll embark with a dwarf that has some weaponsmithing skills. Because as long as they are at least novice, better, the higher the better. But if they're at least novice, getting from 0 to novice is really difficult. But if you can get, once you've got someone who's got a novice level skill in anything, they can train other people. And as they train others, then other people will start training them. And the skills just, they ramp up so fast.
Oh, I've been very snooty with my armour in this fortress. I've been operating a policy of masterwork or nothing. So
Yeah, I like that.
anything that gets made, anything masterwork goes straight up into the barracks, sits in that stockpile there. Anything else that isn't masterwork, whether it's taken off a goblin or comes out of our forges, goes straight into here and immediately set them to melt. Now, I am using a DFHack auto melt doodad here to do that automatically, but you know, it's fairly straight. As long as you keep an eye out and put a standing order in for melting, you should be all right keeping on top of this. It's a very good way to conserve your metals. I mean, most metals you're on a loser if you're melting it down every time you make it, but it's better to get some of the material back and have another go than have all this stuff laying around the fortress that you're not really gonna put the effort into.
Yeah, I agree. I do like to equip my dwarfs with a full set of masterwork steel armor if I can.
I have an exception to that rule. I don't know if we can see any of my military dwarves here. They're not training at the moment, but for the leader of the squad, I've been putting in. Let me have a look. Where is he? Where are you? Tick that one. Quit. Yeah, so for the leader, I've gone in and I've given him artifacts. So we've got a rose gold shield here called the Salabras, and a gold mace. still waiting on the platinum mace. It's gonna happen. One of these days, someone's going to get a mood, and I'm going to force them to make a platinum mace. But we're not quite there yet. As I understand it, that is the apex of blunt weapon materials. Other than, I suppose, if you could somehow mood them to make it out of Slade, I suppose. Is that even possible?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever had Slade just lying around as a material in my fortress.
No, I'm not sure I've ever seen it, to be honest, but I have heard of it.
Yeah.
I give all of my guys steel breastplate and mail shirt, steel helm, steel chain leggings. I'm not 100% sure they can actually wear all of this, because I don't know if it's changed recently, but the last time we had like a go over it in the chat on my stream, I think it was revealed that the steel mail shirt is incompatible with the breastplate, so you can wear one or the other but not both.
I thought they could wear both. I thought it was the leggings and greaves they couldn't wear together.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm not sure about that, though.
It's one or the other, or possibly both. I'm not fully into it. Steel gauntlets and high boots. What's the deal with boots and gloves and everything when they come as pairs and they get split up? Is there any way to deal with the madness of gloves and shoes?
Yeah. So we tested this out. It was with it might have been with Tekard. Tekard's in chat. Was it with you, Tekard, when we were going through setting up custom uniforms? And there's a couple of problems with gauntlets and boots. One is they can't wear boots over shoes. They can't wear gauntlets over mittens. They're fine wearing gauntlets over gloves, but not over mittens. Yeah, it was Tekard. But because you won't necessarily have mittens in your fortress, but you're likely to have shoes. So if you want them to wear boots, then you have to get them to replace their clothing. So, yeah, the other thing is if they are assigned 4 items to wear, they're only going to put 3 of those 4 items on. So you'll either find 2 boots and 1 sock, or 2 socks and 1 boot. But one way around it, because there is another issue as well, which is if you tell them to put on a pair of boots, they have a bit of difficulty when they try to claim a pair of boots and the left and right boot are different qualities. So if you tell them to wear 4 boots, so 2 socks and 2 pairs of boots, there's 6 items that they're trying to put on there. Of course, they can't put 2 pair of boots on, but there's a much higher likelihood that they will be able to put on both socks and both boots if you tell them to wear 2 socks and 4 boots.
I see. Right. Okay. Oh my god, that sounds like a nightmarish initiation into the military. They're all woken up at dawn by the drill sergeant. Put on your socks, and again, and again. More socks. Still, that turns them into killing machines. What more do we want?
And if you are going to replace your clothing with armor, there is an advantage in that the clothing won't wear out, because armor doesn't wear out. So your socks won't wear out if they're worn as armor, but if something gets damaged, you kind of have to keep on top of if somebody's been involved in some sort of scuffle. If something's damaged, they won't replace
one moment
it.
there. Sorry. It's just want to go over something I heard you say there. If you wear socks as armor, so is it the context of where they're like? Is it if you put it as part of a military uniform, does it then become armor? And then
Exactly. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Wow.
If you assign clothes as armor, the clothes don't wear out unless they're damaged.
Okay. Wow. This
Interesting.
changes everything. I can't believe how many times I've just had my entire world upended in Dwarf Fortress. It seems like every time I play, someone says something in chat, and I'm like, "Oh, you can do that, can you? Oh, wow, that's changed a totally different world."
The problem with that, though, is if something is damaged, they won't automatically replace it, because the auto replacement thing is part of their clothing behavior.
Right. Okay. So you would you remedy that by telling them to change uniform or take the uniform off and put it back on?
To take it off and put it back on again. Indeed.
So
Have Sarge
theoretically,
yell
you
at
could
him.
set
Take it
up
off. Put it on.
Yeah, in their quick change drills. There's a surprising amount of crossover between vaudeville and dwarven military. So you could theoretically, if you draft everybody into a squad, set up a schedule in which everybody changes their clothes periodically, and therefore theoretically you could keep them fresh forever, barring any combat incidents.
Yeah, I think you probably could. You would have to tell them to change out of their armor during their downtime. I guess that'd work.
But everyone would then spend a month at least of the year in generic sort of community clothing.
Yeah. Isn't that what you really want?
I suppose if we just provide a load of like dressing gowns and stuff, we could make it like a spa. Get some water on the volcano. We've got a steam room.
Everyone's in blue robes.
Very relaxing. Yeah, grow some cucumbers in the fields. Everyone can have a slice on their eyes. It'll be nice. It'll revitalise the population.
Oh, that's funny. That's a funny idea.
I'm taking mad notes for my new fortress right now.
They take it a step further. Everyone can get nice yarn turbans, and suddenly they've all got towels wrapped around their heads.
That's true.
It's beautiful. It's perfect. Is flannel a material we could potentially use? Because then you've got the full blown. I think a flannel turban counts, right?
Are you I mean, turbans, unfortunately, I think are always an exotic foreign item of clothing. I don't think we can make turbans. I've never spotted a dwarf able to make turbans. You could check. I'm not sure what the varieties of headwear
It's a
are.
shame. I'm partial to a turban. I do like a colourful turban as headwear for a fantasy dwarf. I think it would work well. You can wear them with hard hats and everything.
If you go to your clothing orders, what options do you have for headwear?
None at the moment. Actually, let's remedy that. Actually, in fact, let's take a little look at the holes in my clothing system, because
Sure.
if we try and plug those, that will be a natural fit for the stream. So if I find my clothing area, my tailoring zone, my current setup deals almost entirely in trousers and robes. So I'm making loads of yarn. Trousers and robes. But beyond that, I don't think I have much in standing order. Let me just click here. Take a little look. Oh man, I would, well, maybe not kill, but I would certainly think about doing some very naughty things to get sorting in these lists. Oh my god. Just alphabetical.
You can do it manually by moving things up and down with the arrows.
Oh yes, that sounds like a lot of fun.
What does control? Oh, is that a DFHack thing at the bottom? Never mind. The control O. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So DFHack, one of the things it can add is a few of these little hotkey things that will allow you to. So if I press Control I, for example, you can choose like a set of orders that deal with this kind of stuff. So this library one, I haven't done it, but I'm assuming it will make you a load of bookcases and all the bits and bobs that you need in a library. So you can actually populate this with lots of one-time orders. It doesn't do repeat orders in this particular thing. I thought
library was like just the folder, like the
is it
all
yeah,
of the
because it's basic,
I'm
furnace,
just
glass stock, military.
Oh, I see. You know what? I was looking at it going, feels weird that they've only got library orders in. Maybe they're just templates. I've been looking at it, genuinely missing the forest for the trees there. Oh my god, you're right. Yeah, it is. Okay, so these are all just a load of orders that cover like the various things. So this will give you the bits and bobs for a military and stuff. I would click on it to show you, but then I would have to remove loads and loads of single one-time orders, and that would be a bit of a pain. Control O for sort. This is getting a little bit outside of the realm of what I know. I'm heading into untested cosmic horror territory potentially.
Yeah. Don't press anything and ruin everything.
Do it.
Export.
Okay. You got the good angel and the demon.
Here we go. Please. Oh god, I can't even spell. Don't break. There we go. Let's see if the computer. No. Okay, let's not push it too hard. I feel like it might fall over. Let's do it the way I know. So yarn-wise, I've got orders to keep that I had before that we looked at earlier to keep make 10 at a time and keep a certain number in stock. Yeah. So what I should do is put in similar orders for similar stuff. In fact, you know what? I'm going to nuke everything. Let's start from scratch. Let's do that. There's another thing that DFHack does for you. A little pop-up that says, do you really want to do that? Are you sure? And, you know, normally I'm a bit snooty about that kind of thing. I'm like, of course I'm sure. Why are you even asking me, stupid computer? But in the case of Dwarf Fortress, especially some of these menus where you can click a button, you're dismissing stuff and you've just deleted all the work you've done. I'm quite thankful for it. It's quite a nice thing to have. Where's my rest of my yarn stuff? Sorry, I got distracted again. Terrible. Yarn. I think I deleted them all. That's good. So if we start... Now, you mentioned earlier that if people turn up at your fortress wearing mittens and you don't have mittens, they'll get annoyed seeking to replace the mittens. So you need to be on top of what clothing's available. So it's not straightforward then to sort of mandate a look, is it?
Or is really, because you've got to replace the clothing that they've got. It can be tricky to get them to remove their clothing. You kind of have to... Oh, I think we did this with you, Scoundrel, last time, where we set up a squad that we were cycling the people through, getting them to strip.
That's right. Yes. It sounds worse than it is, chap.
so that they would take off all of their existing clothes and then put on a specific uniform that you required them to.
Yes, we did look into that. So you
did.
could make them wear the outfit that way, but in general, the only way to really sort of like, without specifically getting them to do the whole military process of changing their clothes, the only way to really do it is to make sure that the only available clothes are the ones you want them to wear at the time the old ones wear out.
Yeah,
so you need a surplus of decent quality, non-tatty clothing.
Yeah. So if you have a look at one of your dwarfs, have a look at what items of clothing they're wearing at the moment.
Make a dwarf. Who have we got here? Who's this one going on about rainbows? Let's have a look. It's oh my god! This is a troublemaker. This is a name I've seen many times before. Ast. Don't believe him. He's playing make believe at the moment, but all he's making believe in his head is how he's going to punch somebody in the face and kick things over.
Oh yeah, he's
an absolute nightmare. Very haggard. Constantly losing his mind. His life is amazing, but he's got some serious, deep-rooted issues from his early childhood. I think he was haunted by the ghost of his parents, which, you know...
Yeah, sure. So if you click
it's going to upset people.
Click on his items tab.
Items, here we go. Okay,
yeah, he's
got
mittens.
tatty mittens. So all of this stuff is going to need replacing, really. Robes, cloaks, mittens, shirts. He's carrying thread. Why is he carrying all this thread?
That's where he's been stitched up in the hospital.
Oh, right, okay. It's installed thread. Okay.
Yeah, sewn into
realise.
neck, sewn into left elbow, sewn into left knee.
My God, this child's been in so many fights. He must have been pinhead after taking out his nails for the night. So we've got wool trousers, socks, porcupine kenaf socks. Where did they must have come with him? They can't have come with him. He was born in the fortress. Who's been? I feel like there's a sort of black market for socks in my fortress because I'm only making stuff out of yarn. I've not made anything else. So anything else in here has been brought by migrants,
or has come off the dead body of an elf.
Don't be so disgusting.
Maybe.
Oh my God, I can't believe you'd say something so appalling. Elf clothes.
He's just wearing them.
The corpse
Appalling.
thing I can stand, but
No, it would be grown, wouldn't it, if it was an elf?
true. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no, for cloth as well. Isn't that not just for wood, or is kenaf for wood?
No, I've seen grown rope reed gloves and things.
Kenaf
Right,
is a hibiscus cannabinus, apparently.
Huh.
So yeah, it's plant.
Oh, lovely.
Just have
That's
a
a
look.
relative of the hemp plant.
Have a look at one of your other dwarfs, because this one might be a bit weird, having been in a few fights.
Bit weird. That's an understatement of the century. Absolute lunatic. Let's have a look at this one here on the dance floor. Actually, no, you're a bit sad. Let's look at happy. Oh, God, they're all sad. Vukar Lance Bites. Okay, creator of Gulsmergassel. Nice. Let's have a look at his items. What have you got? Rope reed sock. 2 of. Cave spider silk shoe. Pigtail shoe. So he's not even got matching shoes. Nice.
They're both really tattered.
Gloves, rope reed shirts, sheep wool robe and trousers. Well, the robe and trousers, obviously, easily available. I've been making those for ages. A spatter of Vukar lance-spliced dwarf blood on his guts and his liver.
Looks
Some internal bleeding.
Nice.
Have
Okay,
a look at his health, and under his description, see if he's got some injuries.
His very long beard is braided. His sideburns are clean shaven. Hang on, wounds. Oh, here we go. Okay, he has got wounds, but I'm not sure what they are. Let's have a look at the description again. His skin's dark tan. His upper body bears a tiny straight scar. His lower body bears a tiny straight scar. His eyes are brass. I presume that's colour, not material. Okay, so it looks like he's been stabbed. I'm guessing the tiny straight scar.
What does it say under history?
History. Let's have a little look. Cleaned with sheep soap. Received sheep wool dressing on liver. Ooh, that's some surgery there. What they won't do with a bit of yarn in this fortress. dressing on upper body, dressing on guts, and received cave spider silk dressing on lower body. Okay, so basically his entire history is just medical treatments. It's weird that they haven't mentioned what caused the need for medical treatments. You feel like that would be relevant to the record. Oh, sorry. I mean, I've closed the window. Let's come back to him. So items-wise, I need basically to make all the clothes, don't I?
Yeah.
I need a grand haul of clothing and rows of clothes for the dwarves to walk down and have a look at. Although already I'm starting to worry about the amount of tatty clothing it's going to produce. And now that you've mentioned this whole potential effect on frame rate, I'm scared to sell this stuff. Part of me's thinking send it down to the smasher.
Just smash it, yeah. Smash it with everything else.
You've been selling your old clothes forever.
I have, but I've also been playing like 2 frames a second Fortresses forever as well. So let's. I might be trying this out in the Crypt Beards of the future. I'll be doing a little bit of science, figure out if selling to the wider world all my rubbish is actually the best way to do it. This could have some sort of relevance to the real world, and maybe we could draw some lessons from that. But I don't know. Let's not get too crazy about that.
Yeah. So
yeah, let's get back to the matter of designing and making clothes, because that's why we're here. I've got to find my guys again. Here we go. So what sort of size stockpiles are we talking here? Am I going to need? Maybe I could just use bins, actually. But then again, do bins affect them taking the clothes and using?
No, not at all. It used to, but it doesn't anymore.
Oh, okay, fantastic. So I could just have generic clothing bin and produce enough material. Okay, let's do it. Let's stop all this sort of nitpicky.
Although then you
stockpile
don't
management.
get. I was going to say you don't get the joy of seeing how many things you've got in stock, though. Then
that's true, but I'm very conscious that if I don't do this in one big blob, we're not going to cover all the territory. So I may as well nuke the stockpiles and start from scratch, so everybody gets to see the process, warts and all. Bruised liver and everything. So I'll use this room again, and we'll just make the whole room a stockpile. And we'll take a little peek at what it does. So I'm going to leave it just as a none. Go to custom. Come down to finished goods. Types. Now we're going to want armor. And we're going to want footwear, handwear, headwear, legwear. It's shoulders, knees, and toes.
yeah, I was just doing exactly that.
And hands. Don't forget to add and hands on the end. There we go. So that covers all the body parts. We specifically don't want any metal stuff because that will start sucking armor in. Nothing's going to be made of stone or clay, is it? Is there any
I wouldn't have thought so.
I'm not going to find some obsidian dresses or something
No.
that have struck the cat. Well, gems also seem. Here's a question you may know the answer to. When I put gems in here, does that look at what they're decorated with or what they're made of? Or both?
I honestly
I would
don't
think made
know.
of. I think it would be the main material, but I could be wrong.
That
Yeah,
does make
I couldn't be
sense.
sure. I couldn't be sure.
But
about
in that case, does it need to be here? Why is it here? Or maybe I feel like maybe that's just something that's crept in as a complete list that's been used again. Let's look at other materials. So what we want is stuff made of silk or yarn or plant cloth or leather. Where's leather? There we go. So that's pretty good. You can make armor out of shell, which I suppose you could use as a clothing system. And you can make armor out of bone as well, I believe, if you're going for that sweet Kurgan look. But I'm probably not going to bother with any of that because I haven't made any, so that's fine. And then core quality, I'll just say all qualities because I'm not going to start destroying.
Just clothes. Yeah, you don't need masterwork for every dwarf.
No, they've got a palatial bedroom. What more do they want? Okay, so we've done our little stockpile there. This will accept basically any type of clothing now. So I now need to figure out what I want to make and put those orders in. And I think doing it through the workshop and making a work order is probably the way to go. Also, I realise another thing to do, I should probably say do not take from anywhere other than choose stockpile from which it will take items, this one. only take from the clothiers' workshops, because otherwise, any old bit of tatty clothing
That's
that they
true.
have, they will dump in here, and I want to keep this just for the new clothes. Strictly speaking, it's not necessary really, because they'll just go to the workshop and pick it up. But you know me, I like a display stockpile. So where was I? Finished goods. We've done the stockpile. It now only takes from these. So we come into here and say work order, and add a new work order to the shop. Okay, so
I start off by deciding, out of the plank cloth, out of the 3 types of cloth and leather, how much of each thing, each raw material I've got.
let's take a look at the stocks then. He says, waiting a hot second. for his turn.
Yeah, indeed.
Once you've got a few bits and bobs in the fortress, it can take a bit of a while to respond. So we're looking for cloth, aren't we? So I've got 4 bits of giant cave spider silk, 941 bolts of wool cloth, sheep wool, 3 of llama. Oh, green.
Oh,
That must
that's
have been
fancy.
imported. Yeah. Actually, we've also got a beige and a white here. Interesting. I wonder if one of the dyes is actually white. Anyway, we've got 18 alpaca wool, cave spider silk, we've got 67, rope reed cloth 11, blah, blah, blah. It's all low numbers. I think we can clearly see there is a textile.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, this is our textile of note. So yarn, go to work orders, add new work order, sorry. Type in yarn to filter. Is that how this one works? It does work like this one, yes.
Yeah.
And then we need to choose the clothing. So
I would start with your upper body wear. So either a dress or a shirt or a tunic. Any of those 3 would do.
well, I think we'll start with shirts. Or yarn shirts. Now, when it says yarn,
That just
I'm
means
getting into a
cloth
little bit
made
of an
out of
RP area.
wool.
So woolen cloth, right?
Yeah.
So not necessarily like a great big cable knit jumper kind of thing. But... Okay, so I think we'll go with yarn. Let's give everyone dresses, because I think dresses have the benefit of covering a bit of the upper leg, right?
I believe so.
Right. Okay. So we need to change the order frequency to seasonal, which is done here. Restarts if completed, checked seasonally, and then we need to come back out of here. Am I going to bother with No, I'm not even going to check if there's enough yarn. We've had so many sheep in this fortress. If we ever run out of yarn, I'm probably going to die immediately of shock. Let's scroll down here and find the order again. Yarn dress. And what was the number we mentioned before?
So 1/8 of your fortress, which is 23.
23?
23. There we go. So, and this will be the same number for everyone. It would be so
Yes.
nice if you could copy and paste conditions, but I'm sure that will one day be a sweet dream that comes true. So, yarn dresses, which means we need to. Oh, there's a choice. What's this?
There is.
Oh, I see. Of course, yes. You can specify the size, so I can say 4 dwarves, which is not really necessary because that's what they default to.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know the options there, and we can specify the cloth. I think we'll just let them use whatever wool they want because I don't think it really matters hugely. Annoyingly, yarn and wool wear is the least valuable of the threads, I think, isn't it? Silk being the
Yeah.
most valuable, yarn
no.
being the least, and there being a bit of a spectrum in the plant ones.
Giant cave spider silk comes in top, then comes pigtail. Pigtail's an outlier. Then silk and yarn are the same. Like normal cave spider silk.
Oh, right, yeah, okay, so different from giant cave spider silk. Okay, so I won't specify a yarn.
Yeah.
I'll just let them make it out whatever they want. And then basically we need to repeat that for every layer. So the next one, if I come out of here, we'll do it through the clothier's workshop again. This time the other workshop. I'll type in yarn. So we've done dresses. So the next will be, I'm presuming, legs or underwear?
So you don't need underwear unless your dwarfs have already got underwear. So
I bet they'd like it.
they would like it, but I would go for their replacing what they have got to start with. or certainly what the majority of your fortress has got. So I would go for either trousers or skirts to go with the dresses.
Trousers or skirts? Let's go with trousers under a dress. I feel like it's a good little mix.
And go for
full
yarn,
leg coverage.
Yarn.
Oh, yeah,
not
sorry,
cloth.
you're right there.
Mhm.
Cloth. That's. Can I change that out here? No, I can't.
No.
Let's close that back in. Yarn. Space. Trousers.
Uh-huh.
There we
And if
go.
you change the
change
number before the condition, then you don't have to go back to the manager
right.
screen.
You're right. That is very sensible. So number 23. There we go. And then we change the frequency to seasonal. There we go. Quite quick once you get cracking on it, I suppose.
Yeah,
It's, feels a little daunting, but not too bad. So let's see how quickly I can do one. Work order. They're already making yarn dresses in this one. We also want to make yarn.
So you need.
Come back to loincloths. I think
Sure.
I'm going to make my loincloths out of leather, if anything. Yarn feels a little bit too
Sure.
absorbent for loincloths. It's going to cause some issues. Well, so next one will be
gloves,
shoes
maybe?
or
Socks or sandals?
Socks, shoes,
Or
gloves.
shoes?
You need.
Yeah.
shoes, gloves. So I think I'm gonna, pending a check on leather levels, I might go with leather shoes.
Sure.
So we'll go with gloves, yarn gloves. We also want to change the number first because that's more efficient. Then you click on the conditions, which you change to seasonally, and then you're done. Bang! That was nice and quick. Another one. So add a new task. Excuse me, with hiccups. Perfect for streaming. It's absolutely perfect. Add that. There we go. Yarn. Brilliant. And then what are we doing? So if I'm making leather shoes, do I want socks and shoes, or are they generally not too, or is it what they wear?
They'll all have socks on, so you need to replace their tattered socks.
Right, no problem. Let's keep that order coming then. So yarn socks, that's appropriate. Yarn for socks. I mean, who hasn't got some woolly socks, right? I've just taken a pair off because I'm so hot. Check seasonally. There we go. So let's have a look at what we've got. Oh, my mouse wheel appears to be rebelling. There we go. Yarn dresses, trousers, gloves, socks. Hats, are they necessary? Hats and...
Not unless your dwarfs come with hats.
Okay. All
They're
right then.
quite happy to have a bare head. They don't mind that at all.
Okay. So it's just shoes that are left over, and I think we'll check the leather stocks first to make sure I can actually be being quite so flash. I'm not sure if we're getting leather at quite the same pace we're getting yarn, because obviously you can only harvest the leather once, whereas yarn you can run it through the mill a few times.
Yeah.
Where is leather? Is it called tanned hides in this menu? Nope. Leather? No. Legwear, limb. Tanned hides. Here we go. Oh, I've only got 263. Plus, I did get rid of all the pigs. That's Law's catastrophe.
Your dog leather is looking real low. I'm gonna be honest, Scoundrel. You gotta fix that. You gotta get those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers.
Well, see, the problem with that is most of the dogs die in combat, so there tends to be holes. So you need to use it for smaller things when that's the case. I think pig leather should be the one that we have great numbers of, but turns out I thought I had more than I had. Fox leather, cougar leather, groundhog leather. Oh my god, elephant leather. Now there's a sad story. I genuinely thought we could leave the elephant in the cage forever and it would be fine. And then a couple of days later, nope, big old pile of dead elephant and giant moles. Next time I'll figure it out. Anyway, yeah, okay, we've got some leather, but it's. But again, yarn shoes? Yarn shoes? This feels very, very Dwarf Fortress, if I'm honest. I'm not sure I like the idea of knocking around in yarn shoes. I mean, the absorbency problem, even worse. Let's have a look at what they've got. Actually, silk and cotton both. Silk and pigtail both also have the same problem.
Yeah.
So, well, forget it. We'll just go with yarn shoes. We'll live in this mad world for a little while and see how it works. You never know. Maybe it'll be lovely. Maybe it'll be nice hearing everyone's feet going across all the floors.
Getting all that moist, just those moist shoes just slopping through the halls.
They're kind of like slippers, aren't they?
Well, they will be if we smooth the floors. Where was I? Shoes. Here we go. Yarn shoes. Change the number to 23, and then change the order to be seasonal. And I think that's all the important stuff, right? We've covered all the body parts, quite literally. And how long did that take? Longer than it should have, obviously. But it only took a couple of minutes anyway.
Yeah. Now, some of your dwarfs do have other items of clothing that they've managed to acquire from somewhere, presumably from dead things. We spotted some mittens, we've spotted some cloaks and some robes.
Some shoes.
Someone's got some underwear.
Someone's got a loin. Look at this. That's very narrow. I would describe that as a quite minimalist loincloth. Almost, I feel like I would want to refer to it as a ribbon rather than a cloth. Maybe that's just me. Maybe
it's just a modesty ribbon. That's all.
It's true. Also, I was about to go off on quite a tangent there about whether or not dwarves really need a loincloth. But we'll peg that one for another stream. We'll peg that one for another time. So I do need to make some loincloths. Now, leather loincloths, for sure. I'm definitely going to be doing that. So I come down here to my leather workshop. We add a new task. We say...
Didn't you want work orders?
Oh my goodness, you're quite right. What am I doing? Yeah. I've just completely gone off the rails. So
I've been so bad using managers and work orders because I came from a time before they existed. But with the Steam version, oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah,
it's so nice.
I've been a bit nitpicky talking about certain things in the menus tonight, but the jump from old ASCII to new graphical interface to a fortress is just so lovely. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you feel the power of all the menus that you can read properly, and oh god, it feels so good.
I have muscle memory of all of the the old version of Dwarf Fortress, so like switching over to the Steam version, I'm like, this just feels wrong, but no, it's a good fit.
There are some. I've got some legacy ticks. For example, if I wanted to dig, immediately you'll see this happen.
Yeah.
I'm not getting the dig cursor. Why am I not getting the dig cursor? Please work. Oh, I see. Yes, I've got to click on the interface, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So we've covered the entire pipeline for making clothes.
Yeah.
We've hypothetically covered the pipeline for dyeing clothes. We've covered a little bit of using armor as clothing. Have we got any more clothing areas to talk about? Is there more? Because I'm trying to think of. There's probably a lot more, but I'm not entirely sure if we've covered anything.
I think if you wanted to have your fortress full of people wearing blue hats, then make blue hats, and everyone in your fortress will end up wearing blue hats. That bit's fairly straightforward, I think. If there's a specific item of clothing you want them to wear, then just make it. They'll all end up with it eventually. Yeah.
As long as it's the thing that is available when they go to get new clothes. That's what they'll wear. Because a lot of the problem I find is, this is probably from the fact that I wasn't making enough clothing before. But I was finding, like, I would have like a tattered clothes stockpile, and dwarves would go to it for clothes, and they would pick them up and walk off, and I'd be fuming, sitting there going, come on, what are you doing? Why have you picked this second-hand pair of socks out of this pile of trash? Please stop. There's literally nervous tissue from yaks in that pile. You don't want to wear any of that clothing. It's contaminated. But they still, they still go for it. So realistically, what I was doing wrong was not providing enough fresh clothing.
Actually, have you checked their cabinets?
I haven't. No, I haven't. Let's find a bedroom. Is there a bedroom on this floor? There is. Yeah, this is the chef's bedroom here, I believe. Let's have a little look. Oh!
Have a look
the
at
chef
the...
died.
Oh. Have a look at
let's
the,
find,
the
let's
cabinet.
find an occupied... Oh, no.
No, that's the... If you look at the zone...
Oh,
it'll tell you in the
zones!
zone.
Okay, there we go. Oh,
Yeah.
panic attack over. Yeah, this is the chef's bedroom. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that kid had been on the rampage again and just, like, killing all the kitchen staff. You don't need that.
So if you click on
okay.
the cabinet in the bedroom...
Cabinet, there we go. So there we go, yep. Ah! It's got a couple of socks in there.
Yeah, you see, they do like to... Once they've been wearing their clothes, they like to own them. And so they may have been picking them up out of the tattered clothes stockpile because they've stripped off to go and get some new clothes. And then they go back and collect those clothes.
I see. So they are just reclaiming what they already own.
Yeah.
Then is there a capacity limit on these cabinets here? Or can they infinitely stuff them with their old clothing?
I'm not sure. I don't know what the capacity limit is, if there is one. You know how you see in some dwarfs' bios it says that they'll be either very tidy or a little messy with their items?
Yes.
That relates to whether or not they pick their clothes up.
Right, I see, yes.
So if you have a cabinet in their bedroom and they've been putting stuff in the cabinet and there's still clothes on the floor, try putting down another cabinet. Maybe you've reached a capacity limit. But then other dwarfs are just going to leave a mess anyway.
Oop, I'm zooming the wrong way. Okay, so I'm noticing here all the bedrooms that have cabinets in do appear to be pretty tidy. This one has a small toy hammer on the floor. This one doesn't have a cabinet, so that's okay. That's okay. Maybe this is all I need to do in my children's bedrooms. Whack a cabinet in there. Bosh, problem solved. All the clothing just evaporates off the floor. Problem solved.
And if you put a chest in the bedroom as well, a coffer, then they are more likely to go and acquire an item. Because they used to keep their trinkets in the chest. Now, since the Steam release, I haven't seen a dwarf put a thing in a chest, but it still seems to be a driver for whether or not they will collect an item.
Okay, because I've been incorrectly doing the whole getting them to pick stuff up because I'd kind of heard roughly what the idea was, like making them walk through a stockpile was what I'd interpreted it as. And of course that, obviously, as you've said now, is not really what the trick is, because you want them to move something. Yeah.
You need them to... It's when they put something... I've watched it quite a lot, even since the last time we did a Kit Fox stream about this. It's when they put something in the stockpile. That's when they tend to claim an item, is when they're putting something in the stockpile.
That's why this little pile full of toys isn't working. What I need to do... So if, I think what you could do is a sort of a generator for dwarves gathering their own stuff, is you could set two stockpiles to feed one into the other, because I've noticed it's possible by accident here to create a feedback loop where they'll start loading stuff into a stockpile, tip it into here, and then haul it out of there and put it back in here again. Yeah. So you can set up like a temporary feedback loop for them to go into a stockpile and constantly be moving stuff backwards and forwards. And they can have like a Black Friday style crush going through the doors and stuff.
But they are more likely to pick something up from the stockpile if they've got a chest in their room.
Right, okay, so chests in the rooms and plenty of opportunities for them to haul stuff they might like.
Yeah. And the kids and toys don't count. Kids will play with... The toys are a shared resource.
Right, I see. So they'll pick up whatever they've got.
Yeah. And they'll drop it whenever they're finished with it.
Don't need that anymore. Boom, gone. Be gone, stuff for dwarves. No more. Actually, I just want to. The biggest thing that I've discovered. This thing is not actually clothes related, but I just feel like I have to show off. This is probably someone out there in chat is probably going to be looking at what I'm about to show them, and they'll be like, "Baby steps." But honestly, this never occurred to me before, and it's really the new interface that's even made it possible for me to imagine it. What I've got is where are my mines? Is that it? No, that's not it. I need to go up a bit further. That's the lower mine. Come across here. So I really should set up some hotkeys for this, but I'm so used to following the mine tracks now. Here we go. What I've done is I've set my minecart up to collect from this mining floor, where I've done a load of vein mining. And I've got this stockpile here full of wheelbarrows that gathers only from one other stockpile, which is this stockpile. And what I've done is I've just gone through and looked at all the stuff I want gathered up and thought, yeah, you, put it in a stockpile. And then as they gather it up, I get like a nice little visual empty gap that I can delete. And it works rather than having a stockpile and saying, yeah, gather all the stone in the fortress and then generating hundreds of gathering pings, you can set all your stockpiles to only gather from other stockpiles, and then they'll take wheelbarrows to gather everything. You don't have to rely on dumping orders and like dump zones that are, you might forget to turn off and on. It just feels like a really neat way to sort of prioritize the things that you want to get shifted. And it literally only occurred to me last stream, like Friday. So I'm pretty pleased with myself. Probably there's lots of people who already do this, but I mean, how did I not think of this before? It just makes it so quicker than dumping.
Indeed, I like that. I never thought of putting an individual stone stockpile over the stuff that I wanted collecting.
Well, I only thought of it because of the paint stockpile tool that you've got in here. So we come in and we go to say that one. Because I also realised if we go to my food floor again, you can actually build non-continuous stockpiles.
Yeah.
So if we click here, food stockpile 12, that's 10. All right, well, all the empty pot stockpiles in my fortress are the same stockpile. So empty pots, click here, food stockpile 10, empty pots. So they don't actually, you don't actually have to make multiple stockpiles and clutter up your list of stockpiles when you're trying to navigate once you've got loads at the end game kind of thing.
Oh,
it's a little bit neater.
A great idea.
There is
the
one downside that really only applies to the mining scenario that I'm using it for is you can't have a stockpile across multiple levels. They all have to be on the same floor, but that's not the end of the world because the gathering pile can be on a different floor. So you still got some flexibility there. There you go. That's my new stockpile developments. Let's unpause this so we can actually see some of these commands that we've put in actually take effect.
Yeah, I'd like to see them actually start making some clothes and see some of your dwarves, some of your poor dwarves get some replacement clothes.
Well, as new clothes come out, we should see two things happening. First of all, this should fill up. That should end up with loads of clothes in it. And secondly, up here, we should start seeing all the old clothes that they dump coming in here. But I'm slightly concerned that they're no longer quantum stockpiling. What's the deal here, dwarves? What are you doing? Dupe trousers?
They are.
Oh, they are. They're just taking their time. Okay. Just got to wait for them to get through the backlog. Because this is what happens when you accidentally set up one of those circular stockpiles. You end up going, there's so many quivers. There must be 1,000 elves out there if this is how many quivers they've brought. And then you realise, oh no, there's about 150 elves and you've just been moving their quivers backwards and forwards for 2 years.
Oh, you're having problems with animals in the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hello. This sounds good.
Try setting up a generic meeting area somewhere. Just put a generic meeting area outside of your hospital.
Okay, yeah, let's do this. So here's a zone, meeting area. Very generic, very nice. Perfect for animals. There we go.
Yeah, just set that up now. Let's see if
I accept that? I did, yes.
You did. Okay. I'm just curious whether the animals will make their way out of the hospital now.
Oh.
Maybe.
No. Well, one of the dogs is... and a goose or a duck. I'm not sure. Either way. Come on.
So
no, they're going back in.
Any of the animals that are not pastured will make their way to a meeting area. Because the hospital's probably the only meeting area that you've got.
We've got a load of temples and guild halls and stuff like that as well, and the dining hall. Does a dining hall count as a meeting place anymore? Because I know it's a slightly different designation now. you actually designate a dining hall, not a meeting spot.
Then you can assign. You can attach. Were you in stream when? I can't remember who was in stream when we discovered that you could make a dining area into a library or a tavern. So you can have dining taverns and dining libraries.
One of those coffee shop combos.
Yeah.
Ooh, very nice. Ledge Kindred in chat has mentioned that earlier we were talking about smashing old clothing for FPS purposes, and talking about they were asking if they still had effects once they'd been sold off into the wider world. And we did mention earlier, I don't know if you caught it, but when they go off, they are still part of the calculations that are taking place. So we don't know to what degree, whether they actually have a significant effect on FPS, but they definitely are
part of
included.
Yeah. They're still being tracked. Yeah. So any animals you've got in your hospital or that are wandering outside to the other meeting area there, they are the animals that are not in a pasture.
Right. Okay.
So if you pasture them, they won't come to your hospital.
What do we got here? We got a dog, we got some ducks, and is that also a duck? What is that? It's a duckling, excuse me. Let's see what we can do about this. So if I go to my egging chamber, assign animals, yeah, there we go. Everything. Does this icon here mean it's in a pasture elsewhere?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so we don't want to put the grizzly bear in the pasture. That feels like an extreme mistake.
You've got... so there's a peacock not in a pasture somewhere.
Blue peacock. We'll stick him in there. With regard to eggs and getting chicks and stuff, how does that work? Because I thought I had to separate the cockerels from the hens, but apparently proximity isn't a part of the reproduction calculation, he said sexily.
Yeah, it used to be, like a long time ago, it used to be that if you had a male and a female of something somewhere on the map, they would breed by a spore. But no, they've got to be within quite a close vicinity of each other now.
Right, okay.
If you want to breed more of an egg-laying creature, then to stop the dwarves from collecting the eggs for breakfast, unless you're there to forbid the eggs at the moment that the eggs are laid, best thing to do is to just lock the doors.
I see.
So that the dwarves can't go in and pinch the eggs.
Okay. That
And then
makes
they'll
sense.
hatch them. So it depends on how busy your dwarves are. You might get some hatchlings because the dwarves just haven't got round to collecting the eggs. But I've found that they tend to be quite efficient at running in and grabbing eggs.
Yeah, I either find it's boom or bust with eggs. I've either got barrels containing thousands of eggs, or I've got thousands of chicks running around the fortress.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's no middle ground. I have a
you got
dream.
chicken nuggets. You got chicken nuggets ready to go.
Ooh, lovely. Yeah, pre-portioned.
Yeah.
I do have a dream that revolves around eggs in Dwarf Fortress, and I don't know if it's possible. It may require a little bit of tinkering in the raws, but I want to breed and hatch venomous snakes in order to fill a pit, because I feel like it feels like a real flex. Because you see people like they bring barrels of venom. I feel like that is like surplus. You don't want the venom. I want the actual snakes. I want them in a pit, and I want to be able to throw my enemies in. It's not too much to ask.
You just make a little bridge, you put some weapon traps that are very easy to dodge, have them dodge off and fall down in the pit. Boom.
Exactly, yeah. They go, oh no, a spike! Oh, snakes! It'd be great.
Oh dear. But anyway, looking at the time, we are over time.
Crikey.
So
It goes quick. It goes really
it
quick.
does, doesn't it? So yeah, we are gonna have to leave it here for now. I am curious whether any of your dwarves have actually made. Well, they'll have made some clothes. I don't know whether
They
or not
certainly
any
have.
of them.
Look at this. It is Trousers City down here. What's this?
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Oh, sheep wool trousers. Why are they a different colour? Do I want to know? Interesting. We haven't dyed anything, so it does leave me with a little bit of suspicion. But maybe we've got. Oh, they might be from a different. No, that's sheep wool, and that's sheep wool as well.
Huh.
Well, I suppose sheep come in multiple colours. I just wasn't aware that was a thing in Dwarf Fortress. Well, maybe it is. Okay, well, the mystery of the brown trousers will have to remain. I have my suspicions, but I can't prove how they got there or why they're that colour. But yeah, they've definitely produced quite a bit of yarn clothing here. Although there's nobody standing there now. There never is when you want them, is there? Go and look, and they're not there.
Indeed.
Bins in here. I know it's heresy. Oh, I just don't have bins. Fine. Never mind.
Never mind. Anyway, yeah, we shall have to call it a day. I shall go see if there's somebody we can raid.
Why not? Let's have a little look.